From the latest with Roman Abramovich and Chelsea's potential sale to Jesse Marsch and what Leeds United can expect from their American manager, Mino Raiola meetings, MLS transfers, and much more, Fabrizio Romano joins the show to break it all down. Qué Golazo on this Wednesday with Fabrizio Romano begins right now. Hey, everybody, welcome to Qué Golazo. Thank you so much for being part of the family. You know the drill. Qué Golazo pod on Twitter, youtube.com/Qué Golazo, wherever you listen to your pods. Thank you so much for the continued support. It's been really great to see you all commenting and sharing some really nice comments on behalf of the entire team. We thank you so much. And part of this team, a fundamental part, is my friend, my brother, mi hermano, Fabrizio Romano. We color coordinated today, Fab. How are you, buddy?
Perfect. We're total black. How are you, my friend? I'm good, thank you, and hope you too. Really happy to see you again.
Fabrizio, how in the world are you losing to Marco Messina on FIFA? What in the world is happening?
Yes, but I think we really need VAR in FIFA too, because the referee was terrible, and I think it's out of word that we don't have VAR on FIFA. So I'm going to ask FIFA to include this function, because we can't continue like this. The referee was terrible. I dominated the all 3 games. So we need it.
Man, Fabrizio Pep Guardiola Romano is what I'm going to start calling you from now on. Absolutely. But that's a good point about having VAR. And listen, these kids, these Marco Messinas, they need to be taught a lesson. So Marco, when you come back from Italy, just hop over the L train. Come over here to New York City, downtown Manhattan, and I'll teach you a lesson. And Fabrizio will get on that VAR with FIFA. Right there, Fab. Thank you so much for being here. Fabrizio Romano at Twitter, of course, as well as Instagram. All his content you can read on CBS Sports and all over, of course, his Here We Go podcast as well. So much information. And obviously, Fab, as we have been breaking it down, we had a great interview with Rob Harris, who's been fantastic throughout this whole tragedy. There are bigger things in life than football, and obviously Russia's invasion of Ukraine is a major talking point, but there is the ripple effect of football, as everybody knows. And in the Premier League, the biggest story, of course, is Chelsea, owned, at least right now, by Roman Abramovich. And what are the reports, Fabrizio Romano, because we're reading now a lot as we tape about the potential sale of Chelsea, and Abramovich is really considering it. In fact, he was the one reportedly offering it. Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Wisch is reportedly interested. What's the latest?
Yes, first of all, let me say that to check it out, the interview with Rob Harris, because he's a fantastic journalist, a fantastic person. He's really well informed, and so to have an interview with Rob is always amazing. And so check it out, because it's always a pleasure to hear from people that really are working on this kind of stuff with a top professionalism. So really check it out and keep an eye on the interview. And talking about Roman Abramovich, let me say that the situation is very confused. Obviously, everything is happening in the last 56 hours. So the situation is really confused. Immediately after the statement of Roman Abramovich, the message coming from people close to Chelsea board was clear that Roman Abramovich was still the owner, that he has no intention to sell Chelsea. Then in the coming 48 hours, the situation changed. We know that what's happening on the geopolitical issue we're living right now is influencing the situation for Roman Abramovich. And this is why he wants to protect Chelsea from the situation. This is why he decided to make the statement during the weekend. Now it's time to see what happens with the sale of Chelsea. It would be something super huge. From what I'm told, we are not yet with any potential buyer in the final stages of any negotiation. Of course, we'll have a lot of rumors also in the coming hours and in the coming days. A lot of parties are denying, as is normal when you are buying a top asset, a top club like Chelsea. But now the situation seems clear that Roman Abramovich is open to discuss after the statement of last weekend. And so let's see what's next. For sure, for Chelsea, in the day-by-day is not changing a lot. As Thomas Tuchel said in the press conference, he's still focusing on the pitch, as Marina Granovskaya and Peter Cech are taking care of everything at Chelsea Football Club. Roman Abramovich was not really involved, like in contract talks or in this kind of stuff. So for Chelsea, it's not going to change a lot right now, but it's going to change maybe for the future if they will sell the club. We have to see what kind of project they will start. So it's going to be a long-term project. We need time to see who potentially will be the new Chelsea owner. We are not yet at these stages, but in the day-by-day for Chelsea now is not going to change a lot.
Saluting the great reporting as well from Matt Law at the Daily Telegraph as well, who did report this on as well. And Fabrizio, to your point, things keep on evolving regarding the Chelsea situation, of course. And, you know, obviously, as we mentioned at the very top of the show, the most important thing right now is about the human life and the sacrifices that Ukrainian people are doing, but there is the ripple effect of football. And I'm wondering, Fabrizio, could Russia's invasion of Ukraine destabilize the Chelsea dressing room, specifically Thomas Tuchel, because you have seen him in recent days, the most recent press conference, him feeling frustrated. Rob Harris and I talked about it. Of course, in a way, it's not fair, because, it's not him making all these decisions, but he is the representative of the club in these situations. And there's no CEO, there's no, sporting director that's standing behind it. It is Thomas Tuchel. So what do you think could happen there, specifically with the German manager and the dressing room themselves as well?
I agree with you. I agree with your point, to be honest. When you don't have a CEO speaking in public, when you don't have an owner speaking in public, when you don't have a director of football going and speak to the press, it's normal that journalists make questions to the manager. I know that it's not up to Thomas Tuchel maybe to answer, but this is the reality. If your club structure is not like other clubs that have the president speaking, the CEO speaking, this is what happens. So I think it's absolutely normal. And yes, I see some frustration around Thomas Tuchel too, so I agree with your point. I think talking about dressing room and players, I was speaking with some people close to players at Chelsea also in the last few days, and they were really surprised with the statement of Roman Abramovich at one point, because they knew about it just a few hours before the official statement was on Chelsea website. So they were surprised with the whole situation. But at the same point, now they say we have to focus on football. We can't be affected by other stories. Of course, this incredible and terrible situation that we are living in Ukraine, of course, is affecting football players in general. We have Atalanta Malinowski, for example. He's my friend, and he's really in a shock. He's scoring goals. He's always performing at top level, okay, but in his mental health, he's living a shock, as many other players, I'm sure. So like Zinchenko, Mikolenko, and many others, Yarmolenko, we can mention many. So is normal. But at the same point, Chelsea dressing room, at the moment, they know that they need to focus on football. They need to be professional. And so I'm sure that they will try to not think about owner situation, Abramovich situation, and to focus on football, because they need to do it.
We do need to, absolutely. From that focus on football, there's obviously as well transfer negotiations as well, Fabrizio Romano, with some players, of course, Antonio Rudiger being one of them, etc. Do you think this uncertainty over sanctions will affect that? Will it make it harder for Chelsea?
It's not helping. I think it's not helping in the timing of the negotiations, because now Chelsea have to deal with many stories and having many players out of contract this summer and many players out of contract in 2023, because there are players like Jorginho, and if I'm not wrong, also N'Golo Kante, out of contract in 2023. It means that you have to work on it. I'm sure that Marina Granovskaya, she's doing an incredible job since a long time. If Chelsea are champions of the world and champions of Europe, it's because she was doing and she is doing an incredible work. But at the same point, now having this situation with Abramovich is maybe not helping on the timing of managing these situations. So many players already made their choice. For example, Azpilicueta is really tempted by the opportunity of joining Barcelona. Andreas Christensen doesn't want to stay at Chelsea and is prepared to agree with Barcelona soon. He's really close to join Barcelona.
And this was already a while ago as well. It's not a recent,
yes. Something that started in November, in October, not now. So it's not affected by Abramovich's situation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the other thing, by the way, which you tweeted and it's been reported and stated by Everton Football Club as well, they suspend commercial partnerships with Russian companies, USM, Megaphone, and Yota as well. There was a lengthy statement. Everyone at Everton remains shocked and saddened by the appalling events unfolding in Ukraine, etc. The club can confirm that it has suspended with immediate effect all commercial sponsorships, including of the aforementioned companies that I just mentioned. And by the way, Everton's majority owner as well, Farhad Moshiri as well, is getting a lot of reports and stories from that. So, there's a lot of moving parts here, specifically in the Premier League, and the ripple effect from the game, of course, regarding the most important topic point, which is Ukrainian life and how this is affecting them due to Russia's invasion of the country. All right, let's move on and let's focus on football here, and let's stay in the Premier League. Jesse Marsch, the American manager, as you mentioned, as you reported, he's taken over. Marcelo Bielsa is gone. Now it's Jesse Marsch's job to try and resuscitate the sophomore season of Leeds United in the Premier League. The first question I have for you, Fabrizio Romano, is Brendan Aronson has a very good relationship with Jesse Marsch, obviously from their MLS Red Bull days. He's a friend of the show as well. He talked to us before he moved to Salzburg. Does this make it closer now for him to join the Yorkshire club now that Jesse Marsch is the manager?
My answer is yes. Because the relationship is great. And let me say, and it's a good news for Leeds fans, many players speak very good of Jesse Marsch. He was not so lucky with Leipzig, but what he did at Salzburg was really huge, was really good. His ideas, his approach to football, his relationship with players. And when players speak good about the manager, it's always a good news. I always think that managers have to be evaluated on what players say about them. And so this is why for Leeds it's a good news. Talking about Aronson, they wanted him in January with Marcelo Bielsa, and I'm sure they want him. They still want him, and they will try for him in the summer. A lot will depend on if Leeds will stay in Premier League or not, because I think Aronson is a player for Premier League, not for Championship, to be honest. So this is why maybe it depends on Leeds' final part of the season, but I'm sure that Jesse Marsch will help. Will help with Aronson deal, will help with transfers in general, because it will be so attractive for American players. And now we have many that could do their move to Premier League, to Bundesliga, to many other countries. And so having a manager like Jesse Marsch could help Leeds in this sense. And I'm sure that they had a very good appointment, because they wanted Jesse Marsch since a long time. They were already targeting him as potential replacement for Bielsa, thinking the next season. Then they had to do it immediately because the situation for Leeds was collapsing. This is why the plan changed. But they wanted Jesse Marsch since a long time. They were following him since a long time. They're giving him a long-term contract. So it's a project with Jesse Marsch. It's not just an emergency decision. And this is, I think, good for Jesse Marsch and very good for Leeds fans to hope for something good for the future.
Is that you mentioned the project? Obviously, that was mentioned by everybody in the Leeds board, saying that, as you mentioned, it's not an emergency thing; it's a project. This is now a vision we have with the American manager. With that, and how we talked about Brendan Aronson, is a list of transfers now being, assembled? I guess for the summer, are they rethinking to restructure the squad, especially if, of course, they stay in the Premier League?
Yes, it will depend. At the moment, there is no list, because it will depend on what happens with Premier League football. And of course, it's going to be a completely different market for Leeds. If they will be relegated, they will go in the Championship. So it will be a completely different strategy. But they want to do something for the future with Jesse Marsch. They know that, for example, it's going to be very complicated to keep Rafinha. I think that Rafinha will leave the club in June, whatever is going to happen with Premier League football or not. But the player is ready for the next step. Many clubs are following him in Premier League. Chelsea and Liverpool in particular, Barcelona in Spain are keeping an eye on him. So I'm sure that Rafinha will be one of the players on the market. And they want to rebuild with a manager who has ideas for the future. This is why Jesse Marsch could be really a very good appointment, in my opinion. Absolutely.
And, they stay in the Premier League and they face Crystal Palace. They'll have the renewed Hudson River Derby with Patrick Vieira, who used to manage NYCFC as well. So that should be interesting. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got much more, speaking of MLS, much more news regarding MLS and a certain Mexican as well moving over here. And Frank Kessie and some more involving Erling Haaland, the injury-ridden Erling Haaland this season, of course, and Lewandowski. Will he stay with Bayern Munich? Fabrizio Romano has the answers. Qué Golazo. We'll be right back. 2022 marks the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and the Attacking Third podcast is celebrating the anniversary all of March for Women's History Month. Each Tuesday during March, hosts Lisa Roman and Sandra Herrera will chat with groundbreakers in women's sports, from Sam Ewers and Katrina Adams to Amy Trask and Leslie Weiser. Listen to Attacking Third's Title IX Tuesdays on Apple Pods, Spotify, and wherever else podcasts are found. Welcome back, everybody. Fabrizio Romano here with me. We're going to truck along now. Let's talk about Major League Soccer, which kicked off last weekend, of course. Toronto, Fabrizio Romano, obviously, getting ready to welcome Lorenzo Insigne, but there's some other Serie A names being discussed. What do you have for me?
Yes, another Italian is coming, and he's Domenico Criscito. We call him Mimmo Criscito. He's the left back of Genoa, the captain of Genoa for many years. He was also Zenit St. Petersburg player, very good player, experienced player, of course. He's not a young talent, but he's a player that could be very helpful for Toronto. A lot of leadership, great mentality. He's super appreciated into the dressing rooms, and he's very good with penalties too. So he will have a fight with Lorenzo Insigne, I'm sure, to take penalties at Toronto, because both of them are very good with penalties. My feeling is at the end Lorenzo will win, but Domenico Criscito,
I think so too.
It's very good. And it's a very interesting signing, because they want to complete everything right now in March, not in July as with Insigne. So they're trying to complete everything immediately with Genoa and with Criscito. Genoa are trying to build something new with young players, and this is why they're open to let him go. And so Criscito is really one step away from joining Toronto. They have a verbal agreement. They're waiting for contracts to be ready and signed, but Criscito will join Toronto very soon.
Is this the beginning of something with Toronto here? Obviously, we know the Italian-Canadian connection in Toronto, the city itself. Are we expecting more Serie A talent, do you think, in Toronto?
Maybe it could be a good option. I'm sure that having Lorenzo Insigne is helping. Lorenzo in particular is a big attraction for many Italian talents, for Italian players in general. We had a lot of rumors also in the last few months about Andrea Belotti as a possibility. I'm sure that Belotti wants to take his time before deciding about Toronto. It's true that they approached him. They had an approach with his agent, but he wants to take his time. Same, he answered to Zenit St. Petersburg, who approached him. He's doing well now for Torino. He scored 2 goals in a row. So this is why he wants to decide in May, in June, and not now. But Toronto, I'm sure they will try to build with Italians, and maybe one day to have an Italian manager. Who knows?
Ooh, that would be interesting. Well, Roberto Mancini, maybe after the World Cup, he comes over.
It would be amazing.
Andrea Belotti, by the way, only 28, so he has a little bit of time to think about what he wants to do. Staying in MLS, Hector Herrera, Double H, moving to Houston Dynamo. There's a lot of conflicting, as always, with El Tri and their fan base about what this means. What's the latest on that, by the way?
Yes, Hector Herrera wanted to do his move from Atletico Madrid, talking about summer. He will complete the season with Atletico Madrid and then move in the summer. And so there is an agreement, in principle, it's a verbal agreement between Houston Dynamo and Hector Herrera. It's a contract till 2025. Atletico Madrid are prepared to let him go. He had some approaches also from European leagues like Serie A and Premier League clubs asking him about waiting for the summer and then make his move. But he's really attracted by this possibility of playing in MLS. He wanted to do this move, and so everything is in the final stages, also in this case, like for Criscito. We just wait for contracts to be ready and signed. They have verbal agreements, and so Herrera and Criscito will be soon in the MLS.
Unbelievable. All right, well, let's go back to Italy for a second. This one's really interesting, by the way. First of all, what were your thoughts on the Milan derby, by the way? What'd you make of it?
Terrible game, to be honest. It was maybe the worst game I saw in 2022. But I think Inter and AC Milan are living a really difficult moment. They have fear. Inter can't score goals, and this is a big problem in football. AC Milan are living a complicated moment too. So this is why it was not a fantastic derby. I would say it was a really boring game, but I'm sure that is a moment for Inter and AC Milan. They need energies. They're not used to play every single 3 days. Inter, for the first time after 9 years, they're playing Champions League football, and this is creating a new situation for Inter. For Milan, they are fighting for the Scudetto. They are doing very good, and so their energies are not so ready for Coppa Italia games too. This is why they need some time, but I'm sure that the second leg, the return leg, will be very good.
Yeah, Napoli watching with very much delight as they, of course, take advantage of those tired legs, of course. But let's stay with AC Milan for a second, because Frank Kessie, now Fabrizio, obviously his contract is a major talking point for the summer, hearing some big teams, some really big teams, Fabrizio Romano. I'll let you mention it, but beginning with the interest of Kessie and a team from La Liga.
Yes, Frank Kessie will leave AC Milan as free agent 90%, I would say. I keep 10% because never say never in football, but there is no agreement with AC Milan. He wants to try something new, and yesterday also Paolo Maldini was so clear. He said, we can't, the message behind the words of Maldini was so clear. They can't offer more than 6 million euros net. Barcelona are offering 6.5, but with a big commission and a big signing fee for Frank Kessie. This is why he's really tempted. Xavi is pushing for Frank Kessie to join Barcelona. So there is Barca leading the race for Frank Kessie. There is nothing signed yet and nothing agreed yet. The best economical proposal, so the best salary proposal, is coming from Premier League and from your Aston Villa, because they approached the agent of Frank Kessie and they all want to offer an important contract. But of course, Barcelona is Barcelona. This is why the player is really tempted by Barca. But final decision has not been made yet. He wants to keep it open. He wants to take his time before signing any contract. You know that with free agents, verbal agreements and verbal talks are never so important. It's important when you sign the contract, and nothing has been signed yet. So Barca leading the race, Aston Villa trying, but open story for Frank Kessie.
I mean, and when you're due to be a free agent, a lot can change as well in these last few months. Hence, to your point, 90% to 10%. Hey, Fabrizio, Camp Nou, Camp Schnou, come to Villa Park. Listen to the beautiful scouse, Steven Gerrard. Go to the Bull Ring, the Birmingham Shopping Centre. I'll call Jonathan Kodja, our former Ivorian striker. He'll hook it up. It will be,
could be a solution.
I'm going to tell you something, Fabrizio. If Frank Kessie comes to Villa, I'm telling you right now, I'm quitting CBS and I'm signing up. Well, it would be amazing.
Don't say that, because maybe it will happen. I never say never. So don't say that, please.
I'll become Frank Kessie's assistant. I don't care, whatever. It doesn't matter. All right, let's keep going here, by the way. Erling Haaland has had an injury-ridden season. Of course, his agent, Mino Raiola, dealing with some business for him. What does it, what's the latest for Erling Haaland right now?
Yes, we are in the moment where top clubs are approaching the player, they're approaching his environment, they're approaching Raiola, they're approaching all people around Erling Haaland. So Manchester City were in Monaco with Chiki Begiristain, the sport director, a few weeks ago in February. They had a meeting for Erling Haaland, asking for Erling Haaland. Barcelona did the same with Joan Laporta, the president, who has a very good relationship with Raiola. They had a meeting discussing Mazraoui and Haaland. And then Real Madrid were not in Monaco to meet with Raiola, but they're still there. They want Erling Haaland. They don't want Erling Haaland to wait till 2023. They want Erling Haaland now, together with Kylian Mbappé. I don't know if they will be able to do it. We will see. But this is what they're trying. So Real Madrid, Manchester City, and Barcelona, they are fighting for Erling Haaland. We are entering into a moment where these clubs are discussing with the player side, so people close to the player, preparing their contracts, preparing their projects to be shown to Erling Haaland. This is why we are entering into an important moment, March, April, to understand what's next for Erling Haaland.
Yeah, the usual interested clubs, it sounds like, because Man City obviously has been around, and Barcelona, etc. Real Madrid, if they get Mbappé as well, I mean, everybody might as well just go home, no? But there is a ripple effect here, though. Robert Lewandowski, his future in doubt here with Bayern Munich?
Yes, the situation is not so easy, because Lewandowski is waiting since a long time for Bayern to offer him a new deal. But at the moment, they are not. So at the moment, there is still nothing decided between Bayern and Lewandowski. Let's see what's next, because, of course, who's close to Bayern says in the coming weeks and months, they will make a proposal to Lewandowski. But to stay at Bayern in the summer, Lewandowski wants an important contract extension, wants a 2-year deal. And let's see what Bayern will offer him. So it's still an open situation for Lewandowski. And if they want to have an agreement to extend the contract, I won't be surprised if Lewandowski will leave Bayern in the summer.
Wow, unbelievable. He's Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio Romano, Twitter, Instagram, CBS Sports, of course, all this content right there. Anything you are looking at as well this week, Fabrizio, before we say goodbye?
Left backs, because Windal from AZ, very interesting player, Dutch left back, could join Ajax in the summer. Ten Hag said in the press conference today that they are following him since a long time. But Tagliafico, it means that Tagliafico will leave. He has now new agents. You remember that in January he was close to join Barcelona. Then Ajax decided not to accept a loan with buy option and no obligation to buy, not mandatory clause. This is why Ajax turned down the proposal. But now Tagliafico has new agents. He's already working for Summer Wolf. And so I'm sure that Tagliafico will be one of the names in the summer to keep an eye on, maybe for top clubs in England, because he had a lot of interest for Premier League clubs, maybe for Italian clubs. Everything is open, but Tagliafico will be one of the names on the market. Yeah,
he's a fan of the Premier League. I wonder if a return there would be interesting. But Fabrizio Romano, always a pleasure, my friend. Let's apply to EA Sports to get that VAR for FIFA 2023. I think it's definitely worth it. But Fab, always a pleasure, my friend. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend, as always, and see you soon on Qué Golazo. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Qué Golazo Pod on Twitter, on youtube.com/Qué Golazo. Wherever you listen to your pods, we got plenty more to come your way, including our weekend preview and some good interviews as well. Have a great rest of your week.